Welcome back. Actually, welcome back to the game. It's a new year, it's a new show, and we're getting started. So, what are we talking about today? Today, we are going to talk about device-based attacks, device-based registration, device-based phishing in general, and we're going to try to demonstrate a tool. So as long as the demo gods play along, Dom and I are going to have a good time talking about GraphRunner from Beau Bullock and in overall device-based attacks. And so let's get started on what are device-based attacks. Hey Dom, welcome to the show.
What's happening, dude?
Just excited to be
It's
back.
February already. Already halfway through a quarter. So yeah, it's been crazy.
And you and I were just wearing the same sweaters today or hoodies today, just for the heck of it. No,
just by coincidence, yeah.
Or we just went to Wild West Hackin' Fest last week, and one of the talks that you and I went to was a talk by Datadog about AWS device-based attacks, right? Which in
Right.
which the gentleman on stage basically said, not much you can do about it in the old auth flow. And really, other than monitor, right? I don't know if you took anything else away from it other than device-based bad.
Yeah, I mean you can do a CloudTrail report on when that type of auth happens, but you cannot turn it off as of today, which is a little bit terrifying.
But luckily for you, if you're watching this and you're in the Microsoft world, that is not true. And we're going to talk about that. We can show you how you can protect yourself from this type of attack. And also, maybe this gives you some understanding of how some of the other business email compromise types things happen, right? Not just on the in the middle attack type methodology, but also on like then when you start thinking about how did they get that EML file out? Did they go set up an Outlook and register, or did they do something different? And perhaps this might be one of those something different. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to kick over and hope everybody can see my slides that I've got ready for today. But the setup that we need for this, Dom, and I'm going to try to do this for each tool that we demonstrate this year when we do these tool-based ones, is a victim, right? That could be a cloud-based PC. That could just be a browser in which you're holding that. But whatever it may be, a victim that is going to go through the registration workflow, right? Is that fair what we need there? And what else do we need? We need a attacker, I think, right? So, yeah. And so in that case, I spun up a Proxmox VM, and I wanted to talk about like how do these things happen? You're probably familiar with Dom and I walking through EvilGenix or a reverse-based proxy on an adversary in the middle or man in the middle. Dom, we saw a kid that really knew some stuff about this the other day, didn't we, man?
Yeah, it took him no time at all. One moment he was writing a phishing email with ChatGPT, he just knew how to do it, and the next moment he was collecting sessions. It was awesome and terrifying.
I laughed pretty hard because after he goes through his prompt that he had to create for the phishing email, Dom looks at me and goes, "Man, that kid hadn't written a paper for 2 years." And I'm like, you're probably right. Yeah, like his prompt skills were baller. But anyways, in a traditional AITM, the methodology is this. I'm going to try to stand up some infrastructure, in this case, login.beardbanter.com, right? And that infrastructure is going to be there to respond to an in-the-middle attack, which means that I've got to then go get the threat actor to send an email, right? Hey, victim, please click on this link. And then if I do get the person to click on the link, they've also got to make sure that that filter in between, a DNS filter, isn't in place that's stopping that. You don't have something blocking or looking at WAFs and looking for categorization. There's a lot of things I'm going to have to do to try to evade and get that to happen, right? At the same time, I'm trying to evade Microsoft and hide from Microsoft's infrastructure. And all of the AITMs that I know of require this type of scenario where you have to actually have artifacts and things that show where you came from, all that kind of stuff, right?
So
a little bit of rehash. Yeah, a little noisier, right? And I get infrastructure taken down all the time. So in this case, a token's generated, tokens handed to the threat actor, tokens handed to the victim, and they move on. So you have to not only get the victim to click, they have to be aware that they're going to this like redirect page, things of that nature. And the pretexting on it is usually done in the email, if not with some phishing that comes along with it, or voice-based phishing. How is device-based phishing different, Tom? What do you think happens here in this case? Can you describe it for people?
Well, the beauty of it is it's still a little noisy. Like I still have to deliver a phishing payload or make a phone call, but in terms of getting it past your email security, you're going to Microsoft.com, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
that's what. Raise your hand if you block Microsoft.com on your corporate network, right? That's a problem. Yeah.
That's a problem. Yeah, it would be. Yeah, you might be able to WAF it and like block the front/device, registration and things of that nature that are part of this attack
Good.
flow. But
Good. Yeah.
to your point, it's tough and it's easy to get through phishing. They're not going to look at it as bad. The link's going to come back with a high confidence level, right? Those kind of things. And so what's next in the step? I get them to go to Microsoft.com. What do I have to do next, Dom?
Yeah, so now we're going to pull them through what we call a device code authentication flow, which essentially, in that email, I'm going to say, hey, I'm IT, whatever, go through here, enter these 6 or 7, however many it is, letters, and authenticate. And you're going to authenticate to Microsoft. There's nothing in the middle. There's no proxy.
Right.
It is a to Microsoft authentication. That's really important to point out. But you're not going to get the token back, right? Threat actor is
Right.
going to get the token back.
That's right. It's happening in a separate flow, and that flow is happening with GraphRunner in this case, and that's what we're going to be demonstrating is that tool, just like we've demonstrated EvilGenix in the past. I'll add some extra context in the sense that GraphRunner is meant to be a post-compromise tool in which you might be going through this flow yourself, but I could just as easily see a world where I'm vishing someone through this, right? Hey, Dom, this is
Right.
Matt with IT. I need to get you to click on this. Please type in these letters. Like you could see that pretexting and vishing type social engineering playing out pretty well for that, in my opinion.
Well, and from
All
that
right.
vishing perspective, I'm not sending you anywhere weird. I'm sending you to Microsoft, right? Like it's a,
Yeah. It's going to
it's a
check
pretty
out.
normal place for me to
Yeah.
go, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But Dom, you've brought this up because this is actually one of the things that's unique about, Entra in this case is that we can do something about it, right? What can we do about it?
Yeah, so it's in conditional access as an auth flow. So I can simply say, no, you can't use device code flow. And you can decide how aggressive you want to be, but your average tenant probably just doesn't need to use device code flow, but you could limit it to a certain group or whatever. But long story short, you have a really flexible way to say no, device code flow is not allowed. And CA will say, nope, policy says you can't do that.
Yeah, 100%. So this is our takeaway for today. If you stop watching right now, go implement device code flow limitations if you're not using them in your organization, and just don't let it happen if you don't need it. It will block this type of an attack.
There are legitimate uses, by the way. I literally just 2 or 3 weeks ago wrote a device code flow based script because my team operates on like 6 or 7 tenants a day, right? So that being able to use a separate browser identity and not collude what you're authentic, there is value in it. So don't
Yep.
take this as all device code flows are bad. It exists for a reason, right?
Yeah, but even then, Dom, you can do JIT-GIA, right? You could turn on
I
the
can do
policy
JIT-GIA.
for most of
Yep,
the time and not for when you need it in the interim, right? And do that just
right.
in time, just enough access capability for that. So, yeah, great call out. Let's build the infrastructure. I wanted to save you the time since we are shortening this show to 30 minutes as much as Matt will shut up. And so I went ahead and deployed a Windows 11 machine on my Proxmox host. Went ahead and deployed that as usual. It was kind of fun, Dom, because I got to click on the install from CD pop up. It was just, I don't know, a little nostalgic. It just felt good, man. It just felt
I
good.
still think they need a little Easter egg in Windows setup, like certain key
Yeah,
combination
it
or
just
something
does
plays the old
that.
XP setup music, like
Totally, and a meaningless progress bar that's just going by and wrapping
because
around
yeah,
a bunch. Like that would be
yes,
on top of things. So I set up this email account. I like to set up new email accounts whenever I do this, if nothing else, but to populate the world with as many fake Matts that I can. But this is not a hacker for real at hotmail.com. I'm signing into Windows with that, and so this is our attacker VM. That's all we actually need for these tools. And what we're going to try to do is demonstrate what does it take to deploy these tools. In this case, it's just a Windows or Linux VM running PowerShell. It says that you can do this in either of those. In this case, we're doing it in Windows. So what is GraphRunner? GraphRunner, RevShell, or Beau Bullock, Daft Hack, a bunch of different people involved at the Black Hills Information Sec. Humans, Daft Hack is this guy with the giant beard, although he has no giant beard now. In the bottom here, he's shaved his beard down quite a bit last I saw him. But basically, it's a PowerShell that we download and we import, right? So we're going to set that up. But let's take a look at what some of the capabilities are. What is GraphRunner? GraphRunner says it's a post-exploit tool for interacting with the Microsoft Graph API. It provides various tools for performing reconnaissance, persistence, and pillaging of sweet, juicy data from a Microsoft Entra Azure AD account. Has 3 parts: PowerShell script, which is what we're going to be playing with today; HTML GUI, which we're probably going to play with today a little bit if we can get an access token; and then a simple PHP redirector for OAuth flow code interception. Dom, it sounds like that is a little bit like EvilGenix when I dug into it and the things that it's doing. I don't know, maybe we dig into the words.
I've
It
actually
comes with
never
that hint a
poked
bit.
that functionality in GraphRunner, so we might have to do that
I
today.
haven't either until I was digging into it today and looking at the wiki. So here's some of the stuff that are in the main feature set. So know your tools type thing. Search and export email. Business email compromise. when I first pop in, I'm going to look for ACH, ABA, right? I'm going to be looking for terms that help me find payment, invoice number, please pay, remit by, X days, like stuff to that nature. So, and then the export. Think about this way. One of the most sophisticated attacks I saw was really pretty simple from a business email compromise. They compromised the account, took the .eml files and exported them out, and then brought them into a new domain that they were using for. This is a method of exporting those EML files, right? Of doing that without
Right.
ever having hands on a console or in a GUI. It's all being done through Graph API. See what else stands out here, Dom. Search and export SharePoint. That could be juicy. All
That may or may
Teams
not have sensitive
chats.
data.
No, never, right, Dom? Nobody ever has
Never.
sensitive stuff in their Teams files in OneDrive. Malicious apps. There is a Poison Enterprise app deployment capability. What would that be for in your mind, Dom? Why would you have a malicious app being deployed?
That's to abuse Graph API, right? Like that's
Yeah,
assign it certain scopes that you want. It kind of looks like just another app in the system, and I can just poke at it
yeah.
whenever I want.
And it gives you access and persistence, right? Because you've been here
Right.
now. I've got a token. Now let me go register a whole app and hope you don't look for it after you're doing it. Which is also one of those things that I would give to MSPs saying, oh, I dealt with it. They had a BEC, but I kicked the person out. I refreshed the tokens. We're great. Are you aware of all the other persistence mechanisms that can be done? And that's why I love digging into adversary tools. You'll start to understand some of those persistence
Right.
capabilities that exist out there, right? Misconfigured mailboxes that allow me to take over, clone security groups. I actually dug into what this means in this case. Basically, there's some abuse that can be done if they're named the same thing and you place yourself in that group and they have a different GUID even. The name can have some abuse there, so that was pretty neat in Beau's Breaching the Cloud class. Find groups that can be modified directly by your user, like what rules I have rights to do stuff on, user attributes, GUI for the Graph API to pillage. I love that pillage was made it into the
Pillage.
the documentation more than once. Dump CA policies so I can learn what all the CA policies are. Dump app registration so I can see if there's other like third-party SaaS apps that they're using that might have that juicy data in it. Yeah, so lots to unpack here. I imagine everybody's done looking at that. Let's get back to the attacker and the victims, huh? So let's start. What do you want to start? Attacker, Dom?
Yeah, we got to
Let's
get a
go through a
device code,
flow.
right? So
Yeah, let's go through a flow. Let's see if we've got a VM. All right, I'm not doing Windows updates. Who needs Windows updates? We don't control 7 here.
that's just spyware.
Yeah, right? We don't want that stuff. Okay, so let's go to PowerShell. I'm going to make y'all watch me terribly type. You don't need to be an administrator. You do need to at least have the ability to execute scripts. So the PowerShell set execution policy unsigned, or in this case, whatever it might be set. I've already done that. So we don't need to be admin in this case. So we're going to go to
Unrestricted.
downloads where I've, yep, so unrestricted. Yeah, might as well, right? Always, permanently, forever. Let baddie stuff run. So let's go, we're going to say /GraphRunner. That should put us in the directory. So in the directory, we've unpacked it. So we have GraphRunner PS1, right? We have the JSON for default detectors. We have the PHP redirector, incoming template, webhook template, and then the license and README file that you can get off of GitHub. So we need to do /invoke. All right. Let me look at, hold on. We need to import module. So we'll import the module first. We're going to say run. Can everybody see my screen okay? I'm guessing probably.
Yeah, it looks good.
Tom, you're good. Okay, cool. So now we have GraphRunner. And I love their tagline, do service principals dream of electric sheep? In my heart, I like to think they do. You know, in my heart, I do. I don't know. We are loaded. So we do have reference to his GitHub, and we can list modules. So we can go in and say list-graph run, and we can auto tab because we've imported this module in PowerShell, so it'll just auto complete for us. And we can look through it. So we have all this invoke, delete OAuth app, delete group, remove quote media, drive file download, check access. We have tons and tons of stuff we can do. We're going to focus first on the initial piece, which is getting a graph token.
And one of the beauties of GraphRunner is it's just so diverse in its capability. Like you can troll and just delete people from groups if you're just one of those threat actors. Or you can straight up just exfil all the mailboxes. Like you got choice here.
That, you know, it's the choice that really matters, right, Tom? I mean, that's the point, is the flexibility. But seriously though, like it is how flexible this is. And you can tell it's written by somebody that is a practitioner that does this for a living. It was to make their lives easier, likely, as the beginning of this. All right, so we're going to say get-graph tokens. That's going to open up a session that says to sign in, use a web browser to open the page to Microsoft.com /device login. And Dom, why don't you document this code for me so you can read it back to me? I'll read it out.
Oh, you caught
Let me
me
know
on
when you're
ready.
ready.
Go, go, go.
Foxtrot Bravo 7 8 Romeo 5 Tango 4 2.
All right.
Okay, so let's bring up our victim, right? So we have a victim machine. Hopefully you'll be able to see this here real quick. Yep, there's our victim. I loved this background, Dom, because it was I asked for
So
it to
good.
make me a victim image in ransomware, and this is my victim image was a dead $, which is just it's just delicious. It's perfect. Okay, so what was our website we needed to go to? We go to Microsoft.com/device registration. I think I'm already there, but let's just go one more time for the heck of it. Device login, correct?
Yep.
What's that code, Dom, or phishing threat actor that's not totally trying to convince me to sign into a malicious site?
It is going to be Foxtrot Bravo 7 8 Romeo 5
Would you read that to me again, Sonny?
Tango 4 2. Be more accurate if you actually typed out Foxtrot. Just saying.
Yeah, I literally. Yeah, it's true. That is true. All right, so we're going to authenticate. I don't think I can
MFA.
bring a security key through here. So we're going to go to other ways
cannot.
to sign in. We're going to, let's sign in with a password. Why not? Let's get super fancy. I think I has the password somewhere here. I hope that's not really the password. Let me go get the password. Sorry, y'all. Law of demos, right? I didn't think about the fact that I actually had to sign in. Bear with me, y'all.
You know what's interesting is isn't this an intro joined virtual machine?
It kind of is because it's a cloud PC. So
yeah, it should be intro joined.
Yeah, but I use a FIDO token. Oh my gosh, that's a long password. I hope I can pass this through. Let's see. That's a really long password. Yes, we're good. Thank goodness. All right, we're okay. I promise. 284-506. 284. So technically though, to your point, if I was an Entra joined machine that was passing it through from the primary refresh token, it should absolutely
just fly.
Yeah, I just let that go through. So this is what the victim is going to see. They're just going to go through and see, like, okay, cool, like, done. I'm
and you have signed into Microsoft Office.
Signed in. Like,
super legit.
What else? Like, nothing wrong. It says login.microsoftonline.com, app verify. There's no other thing there. So let's go ahead and go back to our attacker and see if we got it. Yeah, so our attacker did. It says, hey, successful authentication, access and refresh tokens have been written to the global $tokens variable. And you'll see why that comes up later. As we use the GraphRunner components, it's always $token that's been captured out of $tokens as the overarching variable, right, Dom? Is that what you mean? Read that to mean in the tokens conversation in PowerShell?
I do, yes. Yeah. Okay. Much like
all right.
Like constructing.
So we have the information.
I also want to note though, like, look at all these scopes you got. So that SCP variable showing in your list there, like those are all graph scopes of capabilities you have, right?
Yeah, audit log.create, audit log.read.all, calendar.read.write, or read-write, calendars.read.shared, calendars.read-write, contacts.read-write, data loss prevention policy.evaluate. Like, that's handy. I can see why that might matter in an exfil
Group
type
read
tool
all,
set.
org read all, people read all, right? Like, there's a lot there.
Yeah. So can I just simply, I think I can just simply use the GUI. I think you just launch the HTML, if I remember, out of this directory. But I'm not sure if I then have to, because the tokens are manual, I'd have to probably go put them in. Let's see. Yeah, because then you have to go get your token and put that in. And then you can do everything in their GUI here. Right here, it's in the tokens variable. Where's that token for just copy? Is that? What all has to be copied? That's the decoded payload. All right, we'll play with the GraphRunner UI. The nice, or the web, non-web, goodness gracious. The nice thing is we can go to their wiki too. And it was a pretty good wiki if I remember. So we have a token. What does that mean now, Dom? It basically means we have access, yeah, at this point?
We are Matt right? That's what, and we don't need to authenticate again because the token proves that we authenticated. So we're good.
So this would be invoke graph recon tokens $tokens. So let's try. Let's see what we get here. or dash tokens, $ tokens.
This is a stored
All right.
variable, right? It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, that was the stored variable tokens. So basically what we got in this initial enum is, if you think about it, it's like any other good enumeration tool, like enum for Linux, or right, any of those that are just trying to get you some information. So it says, hey, I'm at 7+1 Labs, 5500 South Quebec Street. I think I know what that address is. Whoever registered it is this numpty D Kirby at pax8.com. I don't know this guy, but he must be.
It's a terrible
It
administrator.
gets your what a horrible name. No, I just teased Tom. 7P1 Labs not on Microsoft. Directory sync enabled as false, so you can start gathering some information about the domain. Like I now know that it's not hybrid, probably, right?
Well, if it said
We
true, I
have.
would just stop attacking this and attack your Active Directory because that's way easier.
I'm just gonna let it.
Sorry, I had to do it.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's good. It's good. SSPR is enabled, so I can do self-service password reset. Hey, wait a minute. Users can consent to apps equals true. Users can read other users equals true. Users can create apps equals true. Users can create groups equals true. We already saw where that comes into play, like in creating groups that are sister or lookalike groups to the other ones. Root admin URL. So
Right.
just basically all the stuff that you would need to do to enumerate, they enumerate from the user. This is no different than LDAP, right? And having the ability to query from LDAP about other LDAP objects is kind of a base built in. Yeah. So show SkyDrive Pro initial visibility true.
I love how
So
it's
there's just
still
lots and
called
lots of data. I know, right? Oh gosh, it gave me like shivers. All right, so this is our first enumeration that we can do. What else can we play around with now that we have access? And you'll notice the victim's no longer involved anymore, right? Like this is just a session and a device-based session. To your point, Dom, they're very convenient for being able to be that principal through that device registration as that principal. So let's look at permission enumeration. Let's do enumeration, Dom. I think enumeration sounds like a blast. So that's just basically another flag, permission, will it auto flag for me? Will it just take permission enum? Huh, look at us. Look at us enumming. Here we are enumming, Dom. Num. All right, so this is just trying to figure out what all this user has access to. And so you would start building kind of ideas of what you want to go look at from this perspective, maybe, perhaps. But I basically,
I mean,
so
you could pipe this out to a text file, right? And then just use that to start picking weight. And this has been very quiet so far, right? I want to point, like, we haven't really done a whole lot against Graph, aside from understand what scope we've just gotten. So this is going to let you as an attacker plan, like, what are my moves? Because this is going to get noisy, right? If we start dumping emails or if we start querying Outlook or share, like, then it gets noisy. And if we have an effective, like, MDR provider looking at this, they're going to spot that at some clipping level.
Let's dump all the conditional access policies we have access to so we can start planning those higher level attacks. And anybody might say, well, it doesn't matter if you're already at this point, you've already gotten through conditional access. Nope. Because there might be escalatory conditional access policies that require escalatory means above what this token has been granted that might come into play potentially that we have to get through. Right. And so that might be why you're still looking at, okay, SharePoint Admin Center, block access for apps on unmanaged devices. I now at least have some clue that I need to be on a managed device, and what device registration does to that, how it's treated from an Intune perspective. I'm actually not quite aware.
Well, if you do like continuous evaluation, then that's often going to bunk the idea that you can replay the token, right? Because it's going to reevaluate the machine compliance you're on.
Hey, good news is MAM's only in reporting status, so like we're good there. Like
Perfect.
we know we got some attack surface there. Thankfully, whoever these people are,
iOS mail all day.
Geofencing for the Throwdown users group. I need to get in this Throwdown users group. They get like
That's
freebies to let them like. What a terrible thing's happened here. Goodness gracious. App enforced restrictions for browser access. So you can go and dump all the conditional access policies. So that's pretty handy. What else do we want to try, Dom? We looked at conditional access. Let's see. Dump apps. So this is dumping all enterprise apps.
Yeah, because we can start to see what SaaS products you're using.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, let's clear the screen. And let's
dump. This is that reconnoitering phase, right? Like I might see
we're just digging in.
A single sign-on. Like if I see a single sign-on of a certain popular IT documentation provider, and I know I can go there and just say, "Hey, please don't SSO me," and you're not going to SSO me, right? Like so, I can start to glean what's possible here.
Exactly. We've got Avanon, it looks like. We've got, man, there's a lot of enterprise apps. O365 LinkedIn connection, that's nice. We've got Checkpoint Cloud Security Platforms. So we've got teams looking at our enterprise apps. So it looks like at some point they've deployed Avanon. And now as threat actors, we need to watch out because we know we have an API-centric tool set looking at things that we might be aware of that we have to look for, right? Domain controller services. I'm not sure what that is, actually. Is that an inherent app?
Yeah, that one's actually concerning. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm genuinely not sure what that is. I know some of them I have deployed, but yeah, interesting. Avanon Cloud Security Platform stands to reason. Calendly has been deployed in here. And so that's the point, right? If you're watching this, is that now you could start going, okay, they've signed up for SSO to, let's call it Calendly. Let's replace that with Dropbox or replace that with whatever.
Right.
You might be able to get an idea of the scope, who used it. In this case, we know it was this Imly 7+1s, which is me, right? I have access to those apps that are mine, right? So that's probably what that is, yeah. But it is good enumeration there. So let's see, what do we have from a pillaging? We have 80 users. That'd be fun. Let's get all the users. And we're going to put it in a file called users.txt. How about that? Mainly because I'm being lazy and I don't have to change the code at all to do so. Anyways. Okay, so we have admin, Alex, C. Baker, C. Heichelberger, Dom Kirby, F. Hillard, or J. Humphrey, Megan B. So you can dump. Now, this isn't all that novel, and I can do a lot of this same kind of stuff by dumping users through other, like Trevor Spray comes to mind. Trevor Spray's pretty good at that because you just check for OneDrive existence in HTTP or HTTPS. But it does get stuff like these packages at 7+1 Labs. I wouldn't get those probably quite likely. So interesting. All right. Let's see. One more thing. We got time just for one more, and then we got to go. We're wrapping up. So obviously what you're seeing it doing is it's passing this token variable out as it's grabbing things like what security groups am I in, get updated groups using these tokens. And so it's just taking that token, but also it makes it possible to refresh that token and add persistence. Those are all commands that can be done inside this tool set.
We can show them that access token if you just do tokens or just do tokens in the PowerShell, or dollar tokens. It should
here
dump,
just this way, dollar tokens.
Yep, should dump the variable for you.
So here's your
so
variable
refresh
right here.
token,
Yeah, exactly.
you got an ID token, an access token. So you got all the things you need here.
Yep, there's your bearer token that you're going to present, right? All the access token goodness in JWT, or well, probably at least base 64 encoded. But is it encrypted or encoded, Dom?
That's a JWT. Nope, it's just you could take any of those tokens and decode them. Yeah.
All right, let's look at pillage modules real quick, just because I wanted to use the word pillage.
That's going to be the
pillage tool.
Yeah,
I want to pillage
some data.
I'm pillaging now. Invoke pillage. So invoke search mailbox term, and we're going to search for earnings. So let's go ahead and put this in. And so what they're saying is we're going to use that token, and we're going to search for the term password, but we're going to change this to token or earnings.
Earnings.
Let's do earning. And it's going to say, hey, subject, sender, Exchange Labs, message. Whoa, earnings are really high this year. One of our subsidiaries is AI for water. I bet that's 4T engineering. That'd be my guess.
Interesting.
We're going to be $1 billion over on our earnings report. Do you want to download these emails? Yes, please. I could use these. But you could see how you use that to look for something like ACH or payment or bank or accounts payable or whatever it may be. So this is going to dump that file, and it looks like it makes it into a handy web host even. It does, doesn't it?
Wow.
Do you have anything with password in it? Oh, gosh. Screen Connect Cloud Password Reset Code. Screen Connect Login. Microsoft Search Services. So yeah, totally. 100%. Password is in the search terms. I think we will not download these. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, y'all. Just from a demonstration perspective, we've shown that you can phish someone or vish someone to get them to put in a code to Microsoft. It'll return the token back to me as the threat actor, right? So I think we've.
Well, and here's the fun part, because what you just did was pretty noisy. Like that's a lot of API calls against Exchange to get that data. That you're going to get in about 2 hours once Microsoft decides the log is ready for you. And that's a big problem, right? Like. We have a tenant with Blackpoint on it, and it's also my dev tenant, so I smoke it a lot, and it probably annoys the hell out of them. But it takes time, and that's not Blackpoint being slow. That's when the audit log showed up so Blackpoint could look at it. So, Matt, you could have dumped a whole lot of data and been well gone. And while it's probably going to get detected quickly, it doesn't matter. Probably wasn't detected in time for you to stop it, unless you had a lot of dwell time and they found that device code flow.
Well, and I think that brings us to the play of the game, right? And in this case, and let's just go ahead and hit it. I'm gonna wrap it up with that, Dom. You're right. The play of the game is this. To Dom's point, if we were monitoring and looking at logs for these things, and we're saying, hey, we need to see how long it takes us to get to where we catch the threat actor. If the threat actor is manually typing these in or manually parsing through using, God forbid, Microsoft's amazing search capability, this is a real challenge. But you saw how fast I was able to get in, get establishment, maintain persistence, create and search for things, do enumeration, start exfilling stuff that was sensitive or juicy to me that was valuable, and then take that and move along before the log ever hits the first part of that for the threat actors to be detected. And it's just this, is that tools are getting better and better, and we've always known this, right? That the threat actors go and use tools that were made by researchers because they make them more efficacious and more valuable, and then that also makes every one of us have to be a little bit better, including Microsoft. But go protect yourself from device-based phishing and device registration attacks. It's a simple CAOA and the right licensing.
Game over.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us. We hope you like this format. We're going to keep doing it, but we are going to do something just a smidge different next week. So next week, CJ and Wayne from GTIA are joining us. We're going to talk more about Trustmark, but now that some of these assessments are happening, Wayne and CJ are going to come and point out where they're seeing people fall short the most, right? Where MSPs are falling short of the Trustmark assessment, and hopefully give you some top takeaways. So join us next week, same time, same place. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all of that fun social media stuff, and we'll see you next time.